Yes, my name is Andrew Wilcox with Wilcox & Hackett. We are a legal recruiting and consulting firm in the Southeast. I just want to spend a few minutes with you going through the partner interview or group interview process. Everything from what does a good opportunity look like all the way through to leaving your current firm and all the different considerations that go into that. So what does a good opportunity look like? I always tell people to put together a requirements list to figure out what is driving your openness to change, but also putting together some, what are some complementary areas of practice that you'd like to have involved in your practice. Geographical needs, cultural needs, then setting some money minimums, also figuring out are your expectations realistic when making a move to a firm. Are there some unresolved issues with your current firm that are easily enough to be able to be resolved, and is the timing right for you to do all these things? This may seem obvious, but I always tell people either two things happen when you tell people or when you're looking to make a move at your current firm. If you tell anybody, there's a good chance it's going to get back to somebody at your current firm that you're looking to make a move, no matter how close they are in your circle, or at the very least it makes you paranoid. Also avoid, and this may seem obvious too, but some of the spray and pray tactics. I talk to people usually at the associate level, some partners that send their resume everywhere, or they send it to some bad recruiters that send their resume everywhere. Limit your initial search to the best initial fit, and obviously that shouldn't be any more than. And here's a little bit of a roadmap to go through of all the different things you're going to want to assemble. This is really going to help you throughout the process so that you have your hands on everything. But obviously your website, not just your web bio, but you want to have your resume with all of your dates and all the information on there. A business plan, which you should have anyway. References, lists of clients, there's general due diligence forms out on the internet, and then putting together a revenue run. And this is going to help you when you start qualifying. You know what, at your bill rate, is that something that can support going higher at a bill rate, or is that something that's going to make you consider, you know what, if I'm at a $500 bill rate, if I go down to $400, I really could pick up more clients. But you're definitely going to want that. That's something they're going to ask for ultimately anyway. Is this search just for you, or is this part of a group? And here's some things you may want to consider as well. Your book of business, does that support you, or does that support the group? Are you willing to take a little bit less salary-wise because they have to factor in other people? And then also some potential showstoppers. Are there conflicts involved? A cultural fit? If you're bringing on a junior partner, but that partner doesn't have any book of business, will they come in as a senior associate or of counsel with another firm? Just some ideas that you may want to think about in terms of showstoppers. When I talk to attorneys, sometimes they undersell and oversell themselves on their book of business. The $500,000 rule seems like when you ask people, it's just kind of a knee-jerk, I got about a $500,000 book of business. You may be surprised on the upside how much business you'd be able to actually bring with you. But keep in mind, firms are naturally skeptical. If you say you've got a book of business, they're already cutting that by a certain amount. So again, if you have a business plan and you can go back and say, well, here's my book of business and here's what I'm basing that on, it makes those numbers a lot more concrete and a lot more justifiable to them. So just a few things to go through as far as researching firms. Obviously look at their website, but find out as much information as you can up front. Remember, before you start releasing your information and all that, you can do all this information or do all this research, and it's not costing you anything. It's not putting your name. It's not it's not costing you any kind of confidentiality. But figure out what their partner to associate ratio is, what their turnover ratio. It tells you a lot of great information there. But also stick to just the facts. If you know somebody that was at that firm 3 to 5 years ago, there's always going to be disgruntled employees. I always tell people at the first meeting to get down to business. And remember, it's an interview. It's not therapy. Go in with a good set of questions at the business level, asking them how they do things, but make sure they don't take you down a path you don't want to go down as far as your career. They're going to ask you probably 10 different times in 10 different ways, why are you looking to leave your current firm? Have a clear, concise, repeatable, but positive answer to why you're looking to leave your current firm, and always be talking about the future. And again, always have your information ready. That's why the information gathering is so important. It'll really shorten that up. It makes you look. And here's a slide you may want to pause over the next couple slides here. But when I talk to firms, they talk about cost versus investment. When they bring somebody on now, is it an investment or is it a cost to them? So if you have a book of business, that's great. Ideally, that's where you're going to start from. But going in and asking them some good business questions and helping them to figure out, or help yourself figure out, how do they define success? And are their expectations in alignment with things that you're okay with? And then asking them some high-level questions. How much is it costing them today to do it a certain way? Are they having to send some clients out? And then discussing the value that you or your group would bring to them. So just following up with, hey, if they're sending out $500,000 worth of business that is in your areas of practice, well, talking to them about how you're bringing you in will help them achieve that goal or solve that problem. Well, now you've got your book of business plus all the business that they feel like they'd be able to save if they brought somebody like you in. Well, now that's an investment, not a cost to them anymore. And keep in mind, again, it is their numbers that you're talking about. You're not saying, well, so if you had that, you'd be able to. For partners, I always say, you know what, it could be a few steps, it could be several steps. Usually when you start going into the process, figure out 3 to 4 months. If it's shorter than that, great, and you can shorten up that by helping fill in some of the gaps in the due diligence. The last thing you want to do is get through this process for 4 or 5 months, or even any period of time, and get down the numbers and then find out there's a conflict. So anything you could help them to do to qualify you out, the better. And when it comes to conflicts or whatever like that, because again, you don't want to get into this process and get that far into it just to realize that there was something that was never brought up that could have addressed this issue. So that's why the first. So interview fatigue. This is one of the reasons why I say to have your requirements list and set up your initial search as closely as possible. You want to start out with 4 at the very most and get that down to 1 or 2. I don't know of any partners or groups that have a lot of time to be driving all over the place to meet with several different firms. The closer you get that down to your fit, the better. Keep in mind, if it's not a good fit for you in terms of making a career move, this may be a good opportunity for you to be able to network with somebody or figure out, is there some client sharing that we may be able to do, some case sharing back and forth. It just may not be a good opportunity, or it may be a very good opportunity, and that may be one of the 1 or 2 that you go through the process with. And here's just a good head check in terms of figuring out throughout the process. If you take money out of it, what is the best fit for you? Which opportunity most closely matches that original requirements list that you put together? And have those requirements changed? If you've seen something that said, wow, I didn't even think about that, but that's a great opportunity for me. But really just, if you want to spend a couple of minutes going through this slide and figuring out, what happens if I always say negotiation happens throughout the process. It's not just the end. And if you go back to that cost versus value or cost versus investment conversation that you have, it makes this conversation a lot easier. If they're looking just to bring you on just as a hired gun, then that's a cost to them. If they're bringing you on to help them as a strategic move, as a valued partner with that firm, and they see the business value of bringing you in, then that's an investment. So having that throughout the process, it just makes it a lot easier. The other thing is, don't be the outlier on the high side. You don't want to be the one who's asking and asking and asking for stuff. You want to go in there and get your fair offer, but you want the opportunity to obviously grow from that, but you don't want to be asking for a bunch of things, and the worst case scenario is in 6 months, everything isn't working. Now, in leaving your current firm, obviously you don't want to leave scorched earth behind. That's why I say avoid email blasts. They just never turn out well. Even if you're trying to say goodbye and nice and all that type of stuff, they sometimes just get read wrong. Take the high road. Don't let anybody, again, take you down a path you don't want to go down. Expect the worst reaction from them, but hope for the best. Try to maintain the relationship if at all possible. But the big thing is obviously keep your client's interest first. And that remember that no matter how bad things get, you're moving on. So, you just want. So once again, this is Andrew Wilcox with Wilcox and Hackett. If you have any questions or you'd like to have a discussion confidentially about your career options, please give me a call or send me an email.